right. Hi, I'm Gijs Frieling. I'm a painter, a muralist, actually wall painter, and born here in Amsterdam, living now but on a different place in the city or in the country. And my colleague Job Wouters is here.
My name is Job Wouters, and I come from calligraphy, and but well, more recently I've been focusing more and more on murals and collaborations with my partner Gijs Frieling, and so around 3 years ago we founded FreelingWaters. Yeah, well, I think that in this regard there's always a nice anecdote to tell that we were painting a mural in I think around 8 years ago in Italy, and I was making texts, and at one point there was some empty space, and we thought, well, maybe there could be a lobster there, and then I painted this lobster, and I got so excited because I've been painting letters for, well, more than a decade, or even more than that, and I thought, wow, this is possible. I can also paint and do calligraphy, but they turn more into well, figurative elements, and I felt an excitement that I think after that didn't, well, leave me. So let's say the palette of possibilities, whereas if you paint letters you have 26 options more or less, it got extended with most of the world. So that was really a breakthrough moment, I guess.
Yeah, we were making so we were making this mural, and a lot of my inspirations come from folk art, and where you also have this kind of, where actually this is happening, that they have really a kind of way of depicting all kinds of different things within a kind of recipe of gestures. So they have flowers and people and buildings and all these kind of different things, but they're actually just a very precise set of gestures and strokes, which is very near to typography.
Yeah.
And or calligraphy. Yeah. And so we found out that our practices were in a way very connected already, and our interest in this idea of the combination of in a way these kind of recipes and handwriting. I think that is really the connection, because because a lot of what we do, people always ask us, do you use stencils or do you use but we're actually very interested in repetition and repetitions, but always doing them by hand. And so this thing between recipes, handwriting, and this is in a way very precise meeting point, I think.
Well, we always start with color. I think that is just the first thing, and we invest a lot of time to investigate what we are interested in, or what is the current fascination.
Colors is in our case always pigments. That's quite important, because colors is one thing, but pigments is really something more specific, I think, because they have, apart from their color, they have all kinds of capacities and possibilities. They all work different, so a lot of discussion is also, we want to use this color, but it's not so nice to paint with, because some of them are really very sharp, and some of them are more difficult to paint with. Other ones are very beautiful when transparent. So it's a talk about pigments.
And then the combinations, obviously. Some marriages are just much more happy than other ones. And we know also these work together very well because we've experienced that, but then we're also curious to find out new ones, so we have to do tests. We actually one-on-one, so you see here also on the studio walls, for most of the cabinets we paint a one-on-one, a test cabinet to see whether we think could work, if it actually works. And sometimes we're right, but also, I mean, a lot of the time think, it's not the way. After we test.
Even we can try out things on a computer, but then in the end we also always have to do the real thing. The real thing.
Yeah.
Also with size, because you can invent things on a small size and then still, color specifically is really something which is so has so much to do with size. Also, the amount of it.
Yeah. Quantities.
That we really have to try.
It's different. It's very different, and there's also similarities, and there's also, for example, in calligraphy or stroke painting that we were discussing earlier, you can paint a capital letter A following a certain set of strokes with the size of a 20 millimeter brush, and it will give you a letter of 25 centimeters in height. But you can also take a very large brush and make the same gestures, but it will end up exactly the same form, but much larger. So that, I mean, I could paint if I make a study for a poster, I will use the small brush, but I can also execute it, the same exact design on a wall. Now, the large difference with the cabinets is obviously that they have all kind of corners. It's it has its own architecture. So you leave the flat image and you enter the realm of, architecture, really. Yeah.
Also, it's intriguing as you now explaining it. It's intriguing because I also work as an art advisor in architecture. And in architecture, there's actually a kind of development that buildings more and more start to look like their renders. They make renders, and the buildings more and more are looking like the renders which are already made. And I think we try to work in a way the opposite way. To also, when we make huge things, they really you feel that they are made by bodies, and that they're and that way are close to you, and they're in a way organic and close to you, physical, and so to make a 3 meter high letter is we don't project them; they are really made.
And then in that sense, typography is also two-dimensional architecture. So it has a lot of similarities there. I think.
I think for a start, I think it's a joke, but it's also very serious that we very often when we're starting a new project and we're making designs, we think we sometimes ask each other, will it give us enough painting pleasure when we do it? Will we have enough pleasure making to do it? And
because it's an important ingredient.
It's an important ingredient, and we very often skip things because we think it might be a good idea and it looks great, but we will not enjoy making it. And I think in one way that's really an answer that we really prefer to paint over sitting behind a computer, or and also. Being somewhere, so to paint, and also to be at the place where the work is, instead of only sending it. I think that is actually a very important motivation. But it's not much about precision, but it's actually a decision about how you want to spend your life, how you want to spend your working days.
And on a meta level, I also think that if we put enough joy or pleasure in the pieces, they will communicate that. So we hope. And I think I remember coming from more printed matter, where you always have this. You make something, and then you are expecting something back from the printer, and sometimes it's nice, sometimes not, sometimes it's not going to be printed at all. So you're also dependent on other people to execute it. I remember standing for a painting, in the Prado a long time ago, and I'm watching painting. I thought, this is so beautiful, all these colors. How many print runs or how many layers must it have had? And I thought, there is not, obviously not. But I was so focused on reproduction, and I also thought, okay, true pigments and true painting, they can just, it's a different ballgame, but they can never compete with the actual physical pieces. Also, I was making a lot of physical pieces in the studio and often got remarks like, oh, but these are really nice. And whereas the reproductions, maybe they are just some sort of echoes of that. That also strengthened me in the fact that I thought maybe I should just focus a little bit more on the objects themselves rather than the reproduction.
Yeah. And then maybe on precision, I think there's it's also, it's not at all ideological or critical or these kind of things, but the idea of perfect reproduction is something which is so everywhere. We are so used to it, and thinking in terms of efficiency, that you can be efficient by doing a kind of mechanical reproductions of things. And I think there's a kind of also really a very specific kind of pleasure in repeating things by hand, and we work together, but we also work a lot of times with a lot of assistants when we make, for example, also when we make a collection of cabinets, we work here with 5 or 6 people, and we have to often, for people who start, we often have to explain to them slower. You have to work slower.
Yeah.
Move the brush slower.
We're the only bosses that say that. Slower, work slower. The urge or the thing to be quick is something. And then on the other hand, of course, when we have to paint a full cabinet full of curves, we do it 3 times quicker than all these assistants who try to work quick, because we don't make mistakes. We just we do it slow, but we don't make mistakes. So
that's experience.
Yeah. And so it's. But again, I don't want to frame it like ideology, like an ideology or critical, but it really has to do with what you want to do and what you get from the work. What you get from the work.
And also, I think, lastly, I don't see any mechanical process coming close to the outcome of what we are doing. It's just simple as that. I have never seen it, and I don't think that I will ever see it. And what the precise differences are, I mean, it's also about elegance. So we have paint. We make them ourselves, so it's just a little bit of a glue and pigments. We don't mix it also, so the colors stay as strong as they can be, the pigments. There's not a mechanical or like a technical process that can mimic that.
No, we now made these prints with the bird sounds and the leaves, and they're scanned very high definition and printed very, very, very good. Yeah, of course you can do that, and they are also very opaque. Mm-hmm. And then still, they're printed like with CMYK colors. Yeah. And they
cannot reproduce it throughout.
Or the way to reproduce
is one thing,
it,
but the cabinet is also another thing.
It's strange because we very often think you can do a print, but we could, in a way, more easy and more beautiful, just make 25 originals. Would be actually better.
And even if it were possible that there would be a machine or like a super complex method to paint these kind of cabinets, it would mean that someone is just behind the computer all day, having a very terrible time, and we are just playing music and painting cabinets. I mean, Yeah, I think for us it was also nice to enter this total new discipline. So I come from design, Gijs comes from painting, and then we both enter the world of interior design, which has its own rules, its own players, So in that sense, for us, from our side, it was very fresh to be sort of new kids on the block, but then very experienced new kids on the block. And we do have, there's a strange tension between the art world and the interior world, as if, for example, prices are totally different. So that is there is some sort of tension, or it's strange because we will not make another work, but the context very much defines then the value or something. Yeah, well, for now we have a sort of hesitation because there's brands coming. Sometimes we think maybe it could be nice, but a lot of things we also are a little bit hesitant. We think we should focus for now because there's so much to explore on the antique cabinets. We are not tired of them at all. And also we see very much a sort of elegance in not, let's say, making new pieces, but sort of let these super old pieces, give them a new jacket, and let them be give them a new suit for the new century or something. So I think that is the answer to that. Do you have something more to add?
Well, coming from the art world, I think a lot of opinions inside this art world about what belongs to it and what not is very uninteresting. We very often we like to quote the Dürer, who said my underpaintings are better than the final works of my competitors, and I think there's a lot of things which are painting inside the art world, which are far less interesting than what we do on the cabinets. And on the other hand, we almost always prefer a lot of outsider art to a lot of work which is inside the art world. It gives a lot of freedom not to want to belong to these kind of things.
We don't have a strategy there. I think we were also lucky that this project got picked up very quickly.
Yeah. I remember when we started to work with when we did the collection with Dries van Noten, a lot of my art colleagues said, "Are you going to have your paintings be used as a pattern on a textile, as something which you should not do?"
And I got all compliments. They said, "Yeah, you're designing with Dries van Noten. Well done."
Yeah.
So it was a total different reaction there.
I thought, So that's So, and actually, on the other hand, our first cabinet sold was by a museum, art museum.
Which was great.
Which was great. Yeah. So we think it's. Joseph Beuys said, the difference between artworks and other human-made things is a stupid division. It makes it only generates problems. It only generates problems, and we just gave a workshop in an art school here in the Netherlands, and they wanted to do collaborative making, which is of course what we do too, together and also with larger groups, and they wanted us to do that for a semester, 3 hours a week, something like that, and we said no, we want to work 1 week full time, so from 9 to 5.
No other classes.
No other classes, only working. And also we made a plan which actually we explained. We explained maybe like 10-15 minutes, and then we started working immediately, painting, and with 20 students, and we made a mural, 16 by 5 mural with them, with all kinds of different elements in it, but we actually managed to almost only paint with them. And then they said, they all gave that back to us, that how much they liked it, that they not have to think before all the time about what they should do and how they should defend their choices in all
Well, we
kinds of
set
ways.
out a very strict set of rules, both for the techniques and also for the content. So the whole what was solved by us. They didn't have to think about the what. They only had to think about the how. So they had to get into painting, and that's exactly what they want to do because they are at art school. So we felt a sort of collective relief on not to be responsible for the what, because it's slippery. And if you're as an art student and maybe you're insecure, a lot of energy gets wasted by that, solving that perfect what, before you start doing and handling the how. So we had a lot of discussion about it up front, and we decided that we're going to do it very strict. We base it on on a set of woodcuts of Dürer, and we think about the colors, and actually the whole layout was done. They only have to think about painting, and that got good feedback from that. And I think in there, said you asked first about my brother, who is a designer and who was also part of a manifesto called Conditional Design, and in a sense, setting out these sort of strict rules before you start working, or to provide it for other people, and being interested more in the process rather than the specific outcome is to be considered conditional design. So yes, I think it's a.
And in a way, actually, we're the things in art that really interest us are also like this. We really actually like the most collective styles. We always come back when we were showing in New York. We had one day off. We went to the Met, and we just spent like 4 hours only in the Egyptian department, looking at everything.
Hallelujah!
Because we're interested in that. In those kinds of things, that things which have very specific rules, very limited. They only use 4 pigments, and we do everything with that.
And we feel extremely humble watching it.
And I think this also has to do with in the art world mostly, and of course also in design. Sometimes I have the feeling designers try to get that also from the art world, is the authorship. People all want to be authors. And we don't have this urge so much. We want to be makers. And
that's true. It's also often there's very much confusion between both our individual practices. And we sort of laugh about it. Did you do it? Did I do it? Okay. So we left that a little bit. We consider it as, let's say, a low emotion. And also authorship in the way of content. What you do, the importance on the what. We are interested in times in history where this was not something the artist would be mainly responsible for. It's not so important. You can make wonderful paintings about a lot of things, and it's not so important that you invent them and you come up with them. It's just not so important and interesting.